Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers R.E.D. Robot Enhanced Design Coronation Starscream. So this is their non-converting figure line with all the additional accessories and details and so on. So let's go ahead and bring that packaging in, and we'll take a look at that first. So right up top, you have R.E.D. You have Coronation Starscream down here with some good artwork. This is from Transformers the movie. He is a non-converting figure. Over here on the side panel, this is where all the accessories are. So you can see that there are still a couple in there that I will show you here in the next segment. On the back, here you have the product shots. And down here you have all of your warnings. And you do have the Coronation baby. So he's down there and ready to go. And then just on this quarter panel here, you have a little bit more continuation of that Starscream artwork. Up top, Transformers the movie. Down low, manufacturing information. So that is it for the outside of the packaging. Let's go ahead and crack that box open and get everything out, and let's take a look at what came with him. Alright guys, so laid before you in all of its glory is everything that came inside that box. We'll start as we always do with the little sheet of warnings. So there they are. And then we'll go ahead and we will move to the cape, since this is a pretty big piece. So this is an actual, if I can hold on to it, this is an actual cloth cape. And, you know, I don't know what the material is, maybe felt, maybe something like that. It's a little bit stretchy. But, yeah, I think it's got a good color to it. It is kind of a royal purple. And, yeah, I mean, other than that, there's not a lot of detail. It's the same thing on both sides. It does have these nice grommets built into it, so those are nice and thick. So, you know, unless you're really abusive, you're not going to rip the cape. And we'll see this later when we put it on Starscream, but this just hangs over some hooks back by his wings. So there's the cape. And then we will take a look at those shoulder pads. So they are the same thing, the only difference being just the location of the peg inside. So on the backs of Starscream's shoulders, he has a couple of holes. You'll line it up with those holes and you'll peg it in. But there you go. They're kind of a soft, rubbery plastic, so you can stretch them and move them a little bit if you need to. And not a lot of detail on there, but I think they look, overall, I think they look pretty good. So yeah, you get two of those. And let's go ahead and take a look at that crown. So this is his coronation crown, and I like it. I think it's done up pretty well. But when you get it on him, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think it just, I don't know, Transformers with a crown on anyway, they just don't look right unless it's built in like Galvatron's. But yeah, so it's a crown, and it does conform to Starscream's head, so it's not like you can put it on anybody else. So there's the spots for his little buns. So there you go. All right, next up, we'll talk about those hands. He does come with two splayed out hands. And I think these look good. I like what they've done here with these. You know, these are too small to really put any articulation on, so to have those interchangeable hands is nice. And because he doesn't really hold a gun, he just uses his null rays. The only gun he would ever hold would be Megatron, and he didn't come with a Megatron, so why would they have a gun fist? So they just have these. And I think they look pretty darn good, actually. And like I said, there's two of them, so there's the other one. And then we'll take a look at those null rays. And these are identical. And they do have just a wee bit of a paint app on there. I like this. This is a nice touch, where they put a little bit of black there to kind of give it that carbon look, like he's been firing these quite a bit and hasn't had a chance to clean them yet. So the rest of the detail on there's not a lot. But overall, I think it's pretty good. Now you do have a little bit of mold flash on both of them, actually. So it would have been nice if they would have cleaned those up before they packaged them up, but you know, you get what you get. So you do get two of those, and they are effects compatible, so you do get these really cool effects. And now these are the same thing as well. I absolutely love the coloring of these. So these are maybe some of the cooler effects that we've gotten for the Transformers R.E.D. figures. And they just, as you would expect, they just plug in. And, you know, they've got a little bit of a wiggle into them. So, you know, depending on your orientation, you know, they look like they're shooting up, shooting down, shooting left, shooting right, or just doing kind of a wizard's wand kind of effect maybe. But these look really good. I don't know if it's coming across on camera or not, but these look really good in hand. So I will have to say that between the null rays and the blast effects here, these are probably my favorite accessories that came with Starscream. So yeah, that's everything that came in the box except for the one last thing which I show every time, and it's just this backdrop of the schematics. I think this looks pretty good. I'm always a fan of these, so you do get some pretty good detail. You've got Starscream with his little crown on there, and then you get some of the accessories down here, which is nice. So it's just, I would love to find some way to take all the red schematics and maybe stitch them together somehow and make a schematic wall, something like that. I think that would look cool, especially if you could display it or have your figure displayed on it, almost like the Studio Series, the backdrops. So, but anyway, that's everything that came in the packaging other than Starscream himself. So let's go ahead and we'll bring him in for his close-up. Okay, so here is the Screamin' Mimi himself. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy and see what they have to offer here. So I think that little smirky face is definitely Starscream through and through. He just looks like he's about to say something really sarcastic that makes you want to smack him. So, you know, much appreciated. Good paint apps here in the intakes. And you come down here to the chest. I think this all looks good. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look phenomenal. It looks good. The molded in detail, the paint apps, what they've done with the overall look here in the chest in the middle section, I think it's more than adequate. It doesn't excite me, but hey, it looks okay. And then coming down here to the legs, you just got a bunch of gray there, a little bit of molded in detail, and then you get down to those Starscream blue shins and those Starscream blue high heel look kind of feet. And he does have a little bit of molded in detail there on the top with that that little arrow right there. And coming over here to the side, you can see those legs. Now, an interesting bit here is these actually come off. So I wouldn't count them as accessories because I wouldn't know what on earth you would want to do with them unless you just wanted to take them off and put them to the side. So I guess you could have him, you know, if you prefer that look, great. Or if you prefer that clean look, there you go. So up to you. Now, I just realized, can you fit the null rays in there? No, you cannot. Okay. So I was thinking maybe you could put the null rays up his leg and that would look kind of different, but it's all right. And there you go. There you have the arms. Now you can move these wings out of the way a little bit there. So we'll bring it in, take a look at those arms and those fists. So he's very angry. Insides of the arms have a little bit of detail. And over here on those shoulders, it's got just enough to break up the monotony, I suppose, is the way you'd put it. And here, because he is a non-converting figure, I would say this is maybe one of the areas where he shines, is just that clean back, right? So he doesn't have to worry about conversion, so he doesn't have to have a backpack. They can just make him look clean and tune accurate back here. So there you go. I think that overall what they've done here, I think the looks are pretty good, especially for the price point, you know, keeping in mind that this is a $20 US figure. So being non-converting is a bit of a knock, but the overall look of Starscream, I think he looks really, really good. Now, we'll get into articulation here in a second, but before we do, I just want to say that my preference is Starscream like this. You know, throw his null rays on and leave him like this. I think he looks great. I'm not the biggest fan of the Coronation Starscream. Just full disclosure, doesn't really get me excited. So let's go ahead and talk about articulation. So articulation on this guy, as you would expect from a non-converting figure, is pretty good. So we'll just go ahead and we will start with that head. And so he is on a similar system, kind of that double dog bone ball joint system that some of the other red figures are on. So you do get your standard, a little bit of side to side, a little bit of down, and a little bit of up. but then you also get that forward and back motion, so it's kind of hard to demonstrate here, but he's full forward and then he's full backward, and then you get your side to side motion, so one side, the other side. Now these intakes get in the way, so it makes it kind of difficult to actually do it, but you can get that side to side motion. Hopefully I'm capturing it there. So good articulation there, and of course you can take that head all the way around if you choose to do so. And then go ahead and take a look at these wings back here. You can adjust these wings pretty much any way you want. So if you want to bring them forward a little bit till they hit the arm, go forward. If you want to bring them back until they fold backwards like that, you can do so, and then they would hit each other, and it does dramatically change his look. And then you have the ability to angle these as well. So right now they're as up as they go, and then you can actually bring them down as well. So if you wanted to have a look kind of like that, you could do that. And again, bringing them forward, bringing them back while they're up or while they're down, up to you. You can give him a few different looks, and I think having the articulation in these wings, it gives him the ability to make to have some expressions. So it's kind of like a cat with a cat's ears, you know, ears forward, ears back, ears flat, that kind of thing. That's kind of how I think of these. So you can do a lot of stuff with these wings, and I think that does add fun to the figure. Now as far as the shoulders go, shoulders will come up that far, and then you can go all the way around, just avoid the wings. You do get bicep rotation. You do get double jointed elbows, so you get a great elbow bend out of him. And then down here at the wrists, because they're removable and they do have that joint, you can get your normal wrist rotation, and you can bring them out a little bit, you can bring them in a little bit, and of course they're interchangeable, so you can pull them all the way out and change them out. Now down here at the waist, it's a little interesting on this figure. So you do get waist rotation, but the cockpit gets in the way. So as you tilt that waist, you can see the cockpit deforming. This is just on a pin. So if you take this out, you can just take that and put it off to the side. And the nice thing is, I mean, you get a little bit of detail in there if you wanted to, you know, show him off that way. But once you take that out of the way, you can do pretty much whatever you want. And you do get an ab crunch with this guy. So, you know, you can have him looking down. He's just looking down without his cockpit. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could. You just can't bend him over with this cockpit on. The cockpit gets in the way. There's simply just not enough room in there for all of this. So kind of a strange choice. I mean, I don't know how they would have done it better. I'm sure that there are ways, but yeah, once you plug that cockpit back in, I mean, you're relegated or kind of just limited to a waist rotation about that much if you want, before you really start to deform that cockpit and pop it out anyway. So like I say, an interesting choice. Glad that we have the option, but kind of odd. Now down here at the hips, I'm going to move these legs out of the, or these wings out of the way. You get about that much of a split, and that's pretty typical for what we're seeing for these red figures. None of them are Van Damme compatible. So that's kind of Van Damme frustrating, but it is what it is. And you can kick forward that far with him. You can kick backward that far. So he does have a decent range of motion in those hips. So you can get him in some pretty dynamic poses. You do get thigh rotation, so you can take those in whatever direction you want, however far you want to go. And for the legs, you are double jointed at those as well, so you can get a really deep knee bend, so you can have a little bit of fun, especially if you have a flight stand. I mean, you can get him in a good flight pose. And then down here at the feet are kind of limited compared to some of the other red figures. There's not a whole lot that you're going to do here. I mean, you're going to bring those feet back. These are static as far as I can tell. These don't move. These don't do anything. So your only range of motion is in this toe. So you can bring them back that far. You can bring them up that far. And you do have tilt, so you can tilt out a little bit and you can tilt in a little bit. And that's really it. I mean, there's nothing, it's not like you can pull down and get any extra range of motion out of these. So I would say the feet are weak. Everything else is pretty strong, and the waist is a strange choice. So overall, though, I think articulation on this figure is pretty good, and you can get him in some great poses, and he looks really good with the other red figures too. So I would give him a high rank on the articulation. So what we'll do now is let's go ahead and bring in some of his accessories, and we'll have a little accessory party. And you know what's crazy? I mean, right there, he can almost pull off the heroic Superman type of pose, but we really know that he's just a scoundrel, and there is no heroism in him. This guy. He's just a despicable coward, but he looks good there. So nothing personal. Don't take offense, Starscream. You are who you are. Be you. Live your truth, man. All right, so let's talk about those accessories, and I'm going to start by going ahead and I'm going to put his little wing back on. So you just have that peg and the port, and we're just going to stick that back on, and there you go. You're looking good. All right, so let's go ahead and start with those hands. So we can take those hands and pop them out. Give me your fists. All right, so just grab those hands, a little bit of leverage, a little bit of a pull, pop them out. And then just pop in the new one. And there you go. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Do the same thing here. Pull those out. They do secure very tightly. So now he's yay or excellent. Yes. Yes. So you can do that kind of stuff with him if you want. So they're very lot of great expression. So it's a lot of fun. I have to admit that, you know, sometimes I get lost playing with these figures and just thinking of different poses while I'm doing the review. So forgive me. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do him up the way I like him, and then we'll go into the full coronation mode. So it would have been nice if he had like an angry screaming face too, you know, so he's firing a null ray and, you know, screaming. But this is the only face you get. So next thing we'll do is we'll just take those null rays and we'll put those null rays on. Now, my biggest complaint about the null rays is the post feels kind of shallow. It doesn't look shallow, but it kind of feels a little shallow, and these feel like they want to come off kind of easy. But as long as you're careful, they won't. So then you can just maybe do, I don't know, that looks, there we go. We'll do something like that. And then once you have those on, then you can take the effect, plop that effect on. I should have done that before I put it on. So there's the attack of the shallow posts. And, oh, come on. Don't do that to me. There we go. You can have something like that going on. I think that looks really cool. It's a great effect. Again, my only wish here would have been angry face. Angry face. And it looks like he's burning his fingers right there. He might want to keep his fingers down when he fires those. But you can do that with both. And if you want to give him kind of a gunslinger double effect kind of action, you can do that. It's like, who wants some? So he's firing off on everybody at once. That looks cool. I enjoy that. So this is my preferred mode. This Starscream, just how he is. Now I'll bring in the coronation stuff, and this is where, I don't know, they lose me a little bit here. I'm not the biggest fan of the Coronation Starscream. Plus, I don't like capes. I don't like capes because they don't like me. I just can't make them look right. I can't pose figures with them. And if I'm being honest, it kind of feels like I'm playing with Barbies at that point. And absolutely nothing against Barbies. Don't take me wrong, guys. But they're not my cup of tea. So once I actually start putting clothes on figures instead of weapons, it starts feeling a little weird. So what we'll do, I'll go ahead and I will show you the cape. So you just take the cape, and then back here on these wings, you just have these little hook areas. And you're just going to put that cape on those grommets. Helps if you bring those wings down so you can access them a little bit easier. And tuck those away right there. And then do the same thing over here. Make sure your cape is not twisted like mine is. See, I don't like capes. They don't like me. See what I've done? Let's try this side. I would just edit and I would just show you him finished, but I want to show you the struggle is real. So, all right, there we go. He has his cape on. And with the cape on and posed correctly, you know, you can get an accurate looking Coronation Starscream. You're seeing it from the side. I think it looks good. It's kind of flowy. And from the back, there you go. Now, we'll put the shoulder pads on. And the shoulder pads, they're their own beast. and I have issues with them as well, which I will talk about. So getting the shoulder pads on can be a bit of a pain because these posts are very deep, and even though this is flexy, you know, it still feels like you're going to break something. So if you twist his arm down like that, line those posts up, get everything lined up. Come on, there you go. And give them a squeeze. Bring those back up, and then point those shoulder pads up like that. We'll do the same thing on the other side here. Bring that arm down. Line that post up. Give it a squeeze. Bring that up. All right, so there you have him. Oh, come on. There you go. He's kind of got a backwards lean, but hey, as long as he's there. So there you have the Coronation Starscream with his cape and with his shoulder pads on. And we only have one more accessory for the Coronation Starscream version, but let me talk about these shoulder pads real quick. So I like them. As far as, you know, if you like the look of the Coronation Starscream, the problem is when you start moving those arms, these get in the way of everything, and then they come down, and they don't want to. I mean, technically, they should just stay that way the whole time, no matter what the position of his arms are. And then when you start putting these null rays on, he's not a big fan of having the shoulder pads on with the null rays. I didn't mean to do that. Come on, put it on. So you have limited area in here. So as you're bringing this arm up, I don't mean to keep knocking it off. Sorry, guys. Let's go. There we go. Let's just put it right there for now. So you can see, you know, once you get it up here, that gun just interferes. The null ray just gets in the way. So, you know, the only thing you're going to be able to do with him really is have his arms maybe about like that for the null rays. You know, so you're not going to do any action poses. Oh, I saw what you were doing there. I caught you. Shame on you, Starscream, you scoundrel. Let's get him posed a little better. There we go. So you're not going to get him in any dynamic action poses when he has these shoulder pads on, just because the null rays are going to get in the way. So, you know, it's for me, the preferred look is without the shoulder pads. But I'm going to take that null ray off now, and then we'll just do that last Coronation accessory. And let's just give you a little bit of a nice pose. So let's bring that in. And, you know, like I said earlier, he does have that cavity that is designed for the top of his head, including his head buns. So you just take that on, or take that crown, and you stick it on, and there you go. So there is Starscream with his crown, and it has just enough resistance to stay on, but it doesn't take a lot for it to make it fall off. So I mean, it's not like it snaps in place, not like it's real secure. But if you want to display him that way, you are more than welcome to do so. And again, you know, angle those wings however you deem fit. Watch me struggle with a cape. But yeah, there he is, the Coronation Starscream. And I will try to put his null rays on here. So we'll put those on, and that way you can see him in all of his glory with all of his stuff on. And hey, why not? He's the king, at least for until Galvatron shows up. So let's go ahead and have him shooting into the ground. Why? Because he can. I mean, if he can shoot the ends off trumpets, why can't he do that? So there you go. That is Coronation Starscream with all of his accessories, except for his two punchy fists, which are over here. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I think it's fun to pose this guy. So let's go ahead and just sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. So let's go ahead and get into the comparisons. All right, so for our first comparison, here we see the Transformers R.E.D Starscream next to my original G1 Starscream, and I've said this in previous reviews. This guy was very well loved. He's not in the best shape now, but I promise you he's had a wonderful life. So there you go. Next up, we have a couple of dudes just hanging out, wearing their crowns, talking about what could have been if it wasn't for that pesky Galvatron. Here we have the Combiner Wars Leader Class Starscream next to the Transformers Red Starscream. Next we have the War for Cybertron Starscream in his Earthrise F-15 fighter jet mode. Next comparison that we have is the Transformers Red Starscream beside the MP52 Starscream version 3.0 Masterpiece. And two things I want to note here. Number one, yes, the Masterpiece Starscream has a screamy face on because that's my preferred way that I like to display him, and also because he probably just tried to shoot somebody in the back and missed. Secondly is I think I actually prefer the color of the coloring of the red Starscream to the MP52. I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to get into debate about cartoon accuracy or anything like that, but I just think that the colors on the red actually look a little bit better than the ones on the Masterpiece. So just, it's apples and oranges, but I just wanted to express that. And our last individual comparison is a couple of the red figures. So on the left, of course, is the man of the hour, the Transformers Red Starscream. On the right is the Transformers Red Megatron. And a couple things to note here. Number one, Megatron must have just scored a goal in a game, and he's, you know, pointing to the big guy in the sky. All credit is due to him, or he's letting you know that he's still number one. I don't know which one it is. But I want to take note of something here. The scale is off. And much like I said in the Bumblebee Red review, Bumblebee is way off scale. I mean, it's comically off. But the Starscream, you don't really notice just how off scale he is until you get in beside another figure. And I'm going to bring these two in a little bit closer so you can see, you know, that there's a definite height difference there. Starscream is not taller than Megatron. He shouldn't be here. You know, he shouldn't be anywhere. So, you know, this is a little bit of a drawback for the figure. I wish they would have nailed that scale a little bit better than what they have in these last two releases in the Bumblebee and the Coronation Starscream. He still looks great. He just shouldn't be that tall. And even if we go back to back here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. That Starscream's, you know, got a bit on him. You know, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit, and he shouldn't have any. So anyway, like I said, that's the last individual comparison. So now let's do the group shot with all the other red figures. All right, so there you have the group shot with the Transformers Red gang so far. This is what's been released up to the point of this recording. So you've got the whole group there, so you can see how Starscream scales up and how he looks compared to some of the other red figures. And you got big old Mongo Bumblebee back there, just looking completely oversized. It makes me laugh every time I see him. So there you go. There's the group shot, so you can see how Starscream looks compared to everybody else. So let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. All right, guys, so let's talk about those final thoughts on the Transformers Red Coronation Starscream. If you are the kind of person that likes the other Transformers Red figures, you're going to like this guy. This is an easy recommendation if you are a Transformers Red figure collector. He comes with a really nice assortment of accessories, some of which I like more than the others. I'm not the biggest fan of the cape and the shoulder pads, but mostly because I don't like capes, and the shoulder pads just get in my way when I'm posing. But once you have all that on him, he looks pretty cool. He's got a good shelf presence, and taking the cape and the shoulder pads off and the crown and just making him regular old Starscream, he looks awesome. And he has great posability, and you know, those null rays with that kind of a carbonized effect on the end, and the blast effects look great. So yeah, I mean, as far as the red non-converting figures go, I think this is one of the better ones. From a quality standpoint, I don't have any quality issues with mine, so all the joints are tight. Everything works as it should. There are no flow lines or any kind of injection molding errors or mistakes that I could find anywhere on my figure. So, you know, all of that is a plus in my book. I think that makes him an easy recommendation. Now, going in, just understand the single biggest complaint on this guy is just that scale. Much like the Bumblebee, he's not the right scale. Now, he's not comically oversized like the Bumblebee is, but when you have him next to Megatron, you definitely see that scale difference. So that's a bit of a detraction, but not enough to call it a deal breaker. So yeah, I think the good far outweighs the bad in this figure. So yeah, this is a recommendation from me, understanding that you're a red collector. You know, if you're somebody going in expecting a transformation, this is not the figure for you. But if you like the red figures, the red non-converting figures, then you're going to want this guy. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up the review. As I always say at the end of all these, guys, if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and leave some comments. Let me know what you think about these red figures. I'm curious to hear what everybody thinks about them. I know that opinions vary on these, so I would be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. So yeah, with that, guys, we're going to wrap it up and we're going to call this one done. And until we see you guys in the next one, take care.